Dakota, Florida, California, and we've got great geography, a lot of diversity in crops, and also a little bit of diversity in time that these guys have been at the game, and so we'll get into that as we get going. I think what we hope to accomplish here over the next hour or so is really to kind of pick these guys' brains and figure out a little bit of what they do. I'll take home with us a few good ideas and concepts that we can then take and integrate into our own operations. For this to work well, we really need some good input from you all. That's the purpose of why we're here. And with these guys, with 4 of us, we have an hour of time, so we'll try to keep our answers and observations on point and as brief, but direct to the point as we possibly can. And along the way, as we're talking along, if anybody has a question, I guess my job is to kind of keep my eyes up and pick those out. So please raise your hand if you have a question, and keep it raised, and then I'll get to you just as soon as we can. So here we go. Chris Kamberg, put him on the spot. Chris is Aquayield's longest standing dealer. And Chris, would you give us just maybe a little bit of your background with TriYield and I mean, you've seen this thing from the very beginning when we were still figuring out the what, the why, and how. These folks might be interested to know why you're still sticking around.
I have that question sometimes, not very often. No, really, the Arcadia team's been great to me, and this has become my passion. The technology was introduced to me from a customer of mine, and that customer ended up hiring me to help them build the TriYield business. And in 2018, I got the opportunity to buy that business from them. And the Arcadia team put their confidence in me to move forward with the technology for the state of Florida. And what I try to do is just earn that confidence every year. But this technology, you got to get outside your head a little bit. You got to question some things, and you got to look at things a little differently, and want to bring innovation to your growers. And if that's not your drive and desire, then this might not be for you. For me, it's been a passion-filled, fun ride.
Jim Harrison, kind of the same thing. You've been working with Nano-Yield, and I've got a personal pleasure of being able to spend a fair amount of time with both of these guys here. What keeps you coming back, Jim? You.
You know that's the truth. First of all, I want to just take a moment and say thanks to everybody who stood up here speaking this morning. They all deserve another clap, and I mean that. Having the opportunity of being involved, there's a man sitting right down here in front of me who introduced us to AquaYield, probably back toward the end of, beginning of 18, I guess. And when we knew that the AquaYield products were going to be available for us up in the upper Midwest, I call it. If I say North Dakota, you're going to go that big, and we're going to say no, it's bigger than that. Because we got South Dakota too, alongside Minnesota, where Tom's from. And the privileges that we had in that very first year is that on the very first of what month? April 1st, you got registered for our upper Midwest to go out and work with the products. One of the things that we started to do when we introduced these products to farmers was, first of all, becoming primarily educated on what we're doing. I'm way back in the old days, different types of businesses, grew up farming and dairy cattle too, along with my wife in the cattle business. But knowing with what we could see taking place here was something different, was something new. Through this term technology, it all still meant to us nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. These are all the same fertilizers that are out there, but the technology is incredible. And so that began to be a part of the educational portion of what we were doing. Learning about it so that we could go out and do trial work and that type of thing too. And like I shared with Warren, and I'll be quiet in a minute here, but we represent this company, but we work for the producers. And when we talked about that a little bit this morning, it kept flicking in my ears, that we want to know how and what they're interested in, what they want to do, and how we can educate them. That's why we have a lot of small town meetings and that type of thing too. And I'm going to brag about one other product that comes out of Arizona. Keith Cade, who's sitting here, when we got started with Tom and a product called kerosene. We'll talk about that later too, at one-on-ones. But the privileges that we've seen and have been watching is being introduced to producers alongside of us. We've also got partner dealers with us throughout the upper Midwest that have been in the ag world for a long time. I go by the old book called the E-Myth. Anybody heard of the E-Myth? There's one. Okay. Talks about being a technician, okay, which is awesome. Talks about being a manager, which is very awesome. And it talks about being an entrepreneur. That's kind of where I fit into this as the entrepreneurship. That's why we depend on so strongly with those who are managers like my wife and everybody else that we know in the business world, alongside a gentleman right here who we can talk about technology. So anyway, that's why I wanted to say thanks to everybody this morning who started speaking. So.
Great, thank you, Jim. Keston, over to you. As we've talked a little bit about L.A. Hearn, you guys have got quite a story, and it's a generational story. If you could tell us maybe just a little bit about, briefly about the history of L.A. Hearn, and then what sort of attracted you guys to come this way with this new technology of nanoliquids.
LA Hearn Company started in 1938 by my great-grandpa, and as the industry grew in the Salinas Valley, the company grew with it. So we have a tractor division, cover crop, seed division, fertilizer division, a couple retail stores. I'm now fourth generation working in the company. We've got 14 family members there in different aspects of the business, so there's never a dull moment. As far as the AquaYield introduction, we can thank Dennis and the Penguin guys for bringing it to us and setting us up as a sub-dealer. We're a pretty small shop compared to the big four that we compete with, and we only sell crop nutrient inputs. We don't do pest control or anything. So we're always looking for an edge on those guys, and given that we have so many fewer resources, we really appreciate companies like AquaYield believing in the little guy, bringing us these technologies to keep us relevant.
Thank you. Sonny?
Same question.
Yep, same question.
Am I on? Yep. Although my southern accent's not as bad as many, if you need an interpreter, just raise your hand and one of these guys from the south can help you. But I do want to say that I have felt old today, okay? My knees are sore from doing the Pledge of Allegiance and, you know, that. And the fact that nobody has a TikTok account, right? And Joe Fung does not have a gray hair on his head. And I'm thinking, man, what is going on? So kudos to you, Joe. Hope it's the nano stuff. No, but well, first off, thank you guys for having this event. This is a type of event that takes somebody like me and my guest from being very, very curious to actually being out in the field and making a difference for the growers. My company, Taylor's Company, my partner in the back, We started this thing 3 years ago after having worked for companies that claimed to be customer first, but they weren't. They were business first. They were their company first. They weren't customers first. So we try to make that our message, our everyday message. We have a lane that we stick in. It's all we've ever done. Somebody mentioned snake oil earlier. I was a snake oil salesman before snake oil was cool. I was selling humic acid on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi for 25 years. So, we have a lane that we stick in. Foliar feeding is one of them. So this is perfect for that. I always tell growers I'll be quiet on this one, but if you think back over the last 15, 20 years, there have been advancements, technological advancements in equipment, been technological advances in chemistries and chemicals, technological advances of seed genetics. The only thing that has not changed is fertilizer. If you go to any number of places around the country, their answer to anything is more nitrogen. So, it is up to us to educate, and I think, we learn from one another. So again, thank you for this event.
Thank you, Sonny. Back over to you, Chris. Tell us a little bit about what are your kind of top 3 or 4 crops, and what is your go-to product for those crops?
Okay, so in Florida, our primary market's been citrus, still is citrus. The Florida citrus industry has gone through a lot of challenges in the last 10 years with citrus greening. With that, we've pivoted some to other crops. Sod, turfgrass production is our second largest market, and after that would be strawberries and potatoes. So we're getting diversity of crop in Florida as far as the TriYield, Arcadia business. But when we lead in with a new customer, and it was mentioned today, and this is just the way we've always done it, we lead with NanoPro. Men are visual, and you can usually see a better herbicide performance with your eyes, and then you can build trust. And it goes back to that trust and speed, right? So once you can establish a certain level of trust with that grower, that next order is going to be a lot faster. So we typically always do that, and we also try to do a lot of testing. As many testing data points as we can get with that farmer, we try to establish that, whether it's looking for active ingredient, nutrient content, just as many data points as we can. And we talk about it all the time in our little meetings in our little company, because we have to find our win, right? Because you might drive past it at 30 miles an hour and miss it. And typically, so we went back, Parker and I went back into a meeting last week where a strawberry grower, and he was using the Pro through the crop. His crop scout told us it was better, but the grower didn't see it. And the deal I made with them is they wanted free product, free product. I hate free product. Free product gets you nowhere. Sell it. If we've been doing free product the whole time, Warren, I don't know if we'd even be here today. But you gotta sell it. Anyway, we went back to that grower because when we sent them the bill, because we thought we had won, we rose to the challenge, they didn't see it. We didn't define the parameters of success. So when we went back in there last week, Parker and I, and Parker just cold called, went back in there. I was real proud of him for that, because you talk about failing and not wanting to go back for 4 years. That's sort of what happened, because we failed. At least we thought we failed. And anyway, so I said, Parker, we need to lay out a program. We need to define what success is. 5 objectives that are measurable. I'm going to sign my name at the bottom because they wanted free product again. And then they're going to sign at the bottom. And if they won't do that, we're not going to do it because we got no time for that kind of business. We got their attention. So we're going to get the feedback this week on whether that trial's going forward again. But yeah, NanoPro. That was a NanoPro situation.
Thank you. Jim, I'll get to you in just a second. But Keston, I wanted to pitch that same question to you. You guys are like Chris in Florida in the sense that, you guys are highly focused on high-value crops, specialty crops. Give us a little bit of sense of what some of those crops are for you guys, and then what are sort of your go-to products for those?
Our crop set that we're focused mostly on is strawberries, fresh vegetables, from your spinaches to a lot of your brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Very diverse crop set and also a very diverse growing region. We can see a 45-degree difference between our southern valley and up next to the coast in the same day. We have very diverse soil types throughout that valley. Water quality varies quite a bit. So our approach to selling products is maybe a little different. Is we do a lot of investigating to try and understand the environment that we're operating in, trying to understand where maybe some of those antagonists are or some of those deficiencies are, and then deciding on what product to recommend based on the data that we've collected from that particular farm. By taking more of a custom approach per account, we're able to earn that trust through providing decision support from the data we've collected. So our biggest thing we're being regulated on nitrogen we're moving forward. So products like the Nano-Yield, we battle with a lot of potassium deficiency, so products like the Nano-K, that we can go to the grower, we can identify a problem, we can properly place the product, and we can create a continuous sale versus just a one and done. So by providing a lot of that data collection and decision support and basing all of those decisions around the 4R nutrient management, we're able to make sales that stick and build relationships and trust with our growers.
Thank you. Jim, kind of same question. I know you guys have got 3, 4, or 5 sort of top crops in terms of acreage and gallons used. And tell us a little bit about those and maybe what your go-to products are.
And where we're at, up in the Red River Valley, central Minnesota location, and into both North and South Dakota, our major crops are soybeans and corn. But we've got pockets where potatoes are growing. We got pockets where sugar beets are alive and well. Small grains are part of the sugar beet world with wheat, for example, on rotations for beets. And then we have a lot of areas of edible beans. We have different pockets in the valley where we have a lot of irrigation going on, a lot of center pivot irrigation up because we got great water that we're still being able to get under and bring up. And that's being monitored on an annual basis, that's for sure, how much water we're losing or gaining. We've been in droughts for the last couple of years, so that's kind of been put aside a little bit in different areas. I'll give a quick story about one of our producers, and Warren knows these guys very well. Their last name is Johnson, because we live in an UFTA world up there in the Norwegians. And anyway, and I'm not picking on any of the products, but there are products out there. We live in a zone in the valley up there where we have a lot of iron chlorosis, for example, in all of our bean growing. Where the beans are struggling and suffering with what's taking place in the soils. And when we have learned about different products, we used to be in custom planting, so soy green and Versa were 2 products that were going out to help battle against iron chlorosis. And we got a call from one of our harvesting customers one year, and they said, what do you guys have to bring in to help iron chlorosis? Well, that was the first year we knew that the NanoPack was going to be something with the iron in it. And then we were also thinking about, well, if this is going to go down in a starter app, they're not using anything else on soybeans, but this could be a kind of a starter fertilizer with all the micronutrients in there at the same time at the big rate of 4 ounces. We were still harvesting for them that year. I can let you know that we saw an extra 6+ bushels per acre coming back. But what really turned them on was that their variable rate of putting down Versa, which was the form of iron, for iron deficiencies that they were taking place, they were spending anywhere from $18 to $20 per acre. And back then, the nano pack was at $5.72 per acre. I'll never forget that. And when they did, they called up and said, what can we do differently? What do you have? And this is, again, they knew what we were doing with AquaYield, but we hadn't done anything with them yet. And so we educated them for a few minutes, but they said, it doesn't matter. We got more than 3,000 acres left to plant. Bring it up. And I said, well, we'll bring you a 2.5 gallon container. We'll do an 80-acre trial with you. And they said, no, we got over 3,000 acres left, the Johnsons. And they said, and I go, oh, okay, we'll be a part of it, because we were learning about it at the same time. Not only did they get a bump increase on their beans that year for yield, at that $5.72 per acre times 3,000 plus acres versus I'll round it up to $20 an acre, you can do the math. It turned them on. And they're farming, they farm around, I think right around 9,000 acres right now. And this was their 4th season with us. Every acre that they have, they're using our Nano CS, they're using the Nano Pack and other products that we have too. So.
Thanks, Jim. And then Sunny, little twist on the same question for you. Not only your top crops, but at what point did you know that the nanoliquid technology was working for you and your customers?
It's kind of it's going to be a sideways answer. When Mike Jackson came in and met with me and Taylor the first time, I actually had some experience with some nanotechnology prior to knowing anything about AquaYield. I knew that I had gotten some results with those products, but it was very rarely did I get the results. Nobody knew anything how to tell me, they just kind of knew it was something. And then when I realized what AquaYield had done, invested in the knowledge, the people, the whole thing, that's when, immediately we knew we were on board. But as far as the products this year, we haven't gotten any out that people haven't given us positive feedback. And to me, that's the biggest thing. I tell people all the time, you've got followers and leaders, you've got people that will wait and see. You've got dealers that say, I'll wait and see what happens. You got farmers that say, I'll just wait and see. Then you got leaders in the industry, whether they're farmer leaders, dealer leaders, that say, I'm going to find out for myself. And that is regardless of the trial data that you guys may have. It's regardless of trial data that the university might have. I'm going to find out for myself. So at the end of the day, all we're asking farmers to do is try the product. You educate us. We learn more from our farmers on a visit than we ever teach them. And that's from the soil to the plant to the products we're using. They educate us. We work with, as a fortunate to be able to do it because we get to meet that many more people. But we work with grass seed and pasture guys in Texas. We work with sugarcane guys in Louisiana, rice and beans and corn in Arkansas, all the way up to Ohio. Every soil's different. Every planting time's different. Every weather pattern's different. Every practice is different. But at the end of the day, there's one product that I can tell every one of them can benefit you, and that's Nano Pro. And then secondly is Nano-Yield, because once they use the Pro and they see it, those questions start to come about other products they have. And we're still here to learn. So Taylor, can you raise your hand right quick? See him back here in the back? Good looking fella. If you have any experience with sod and lawn care, things like that, search him out this afternoon. But he's got questions for you. Sorry.
That's great.